for being here on time. And I love seeing some familiar names and some new names on here. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jennifer McManus, and I'm one of the dietitians here at Pendulum. I work with a few of you guys I see on this call already, so I'm really excited that you guys are here in this group setting. Also on the call, we have another one of our dietitians. Her name is Chandler. She is calling in tuning in from Texas. She lives in Dallas, and she just joined us a couple months ago. So she started working with some of our amazing customers, and we're so happy to have her. And then also on the call is Dan. So Dan is tuning in from California. He lives in the Bay Area, and he is an amazing person on our marketing team. He writes all of our articles and our blog posts, and he's just such a fantastic writer and really a wealth of knowledge. So as we go through the presentation, Dan is going to pop in some other additional resources for you guys to view it at your leisure. But you know, he isn't just some random guy popping in articles. He does work with us. So if you want some additional information, he will provide you with that. But what I would love to do, so we call these Ask Me Anything. So really they're for you guys to ask me anything. And of course I will do my best to answer. I don't know everything, but I do know a little bit about some really fun nutrition and microbiome related topics. But if I don't know the answer to your question, I will write it down and of course look into it and get back to you through your email. But what I would like to do is, just because there's so many people signed up for this session, is I would like to just go through the presentation, and then you guys can go ahead and pop in either the chat box or the Q&A box any questions that you might have. And I'm just going to save them to the end this time. I might answer some of the questions throughout the presentation, but I'm just going to go through this, really talk about all fun things with fiber, and then get to the questions at the end. So, but feel free to keep popping them in the chat and the Q&A box as you think of them, and then I will get to them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So you guys are here because you're either taking our Pendulum glucose control product or our Acromancia product. And I don't know if you guys follow us on social media, which Dan will provide those links for you guys later, but we actually just posted this really cool teaser that tomorrow we're launching a new product. So be on the lookout for that. Really, really exciting stuff on the horizon with the microbiome, and of course, Pendulum, you know, pioneering this space. So welcome to you all. Okay, so I'm just going to go through fiber and what it is and why it's so important. So as you might know, fiber is that natural scrub brush for the gut. So as it goes through our GI tract, it's going to clean up all those, you know, good and bad things throughout your GI tract. One of my favorite things about fiber is it's a natural way to help us feel full. So it keeps us feeling, helps with satiety. It can really also help with weight loss if that's something that you guys desire, because when you eat high fiber foods, it helps you feeling full. So it's going to prevent you from going back to the refrigerator and back to the pantry, which I know is a very, very common thing these days with working from home. This is actually my first webinar that I've led that I don't have my husband sitting in this room. He went back to the office, which is really exciting. For me, I get the house to myself. So, but now I have full access to the kitchen and the pantry. So really focusing on those high fiber foods to prevent those frequent trips. Fiber, soluble fiber specifically, and we'll get into the differences between the fibers, but soluble fiber specifically also helps to lower cholesterol. So if cholesterol is an issue for you that you need to, that you want to work on lowering, fiber will also be your friend there. Fiber really, I swear, is just this, it can tackle so many problems. I think it gets overlooked as like a popular nutrient because it's not, and I say this often, but it's not this like super sexy nutrient, you know, it's fiber. Everyone's like, oh, big whoop-de-doo, but it really is an awesome nutrient that can help with so many different things. Fiber also improves digestion. So depending on which side of the scale you might lean towards, if you tend to be more on the constipated side or you tend to be more on the runny side, there's different types of fiber that can help with both of those things, but it really does help keep you regular and aid in digestion. And then Fiber also helps to manage your blood sugar. So if any of you are here that are wearing continuous glucose monitors, or if you check your blood sugar, you will know that if you eat a piece of white bread and then you eat a piece of whole grain, high fiber bread, it's going to do something completely different to your blood sugar. You will likely see a pretty big spike with that, with the white bread. But when you have a higher fiber piece of bread, you're going to see a little bit of a blunted response to that blood sugar. So fiber is really important for helping to prevent or blunt those blood sugar spikes during your meals. And then lastly, and maybe the most important, is that fiber also is the main source of food for our gut microbiome. So if you're taking pendulum glucose control and additionally Acromancia, you have to give these strains fiber. It's what they want to eat. So, you can introduce these strains all you want, but they aren't going to do what we want them to do unless we're feeding them the fiber that they like to eat. Same with us, right? We're going to be pretty hangry and upset if you aren't feeding us what we want to eat, and the same thing with these little bugs. So some really good label tips and tricks. So a good source of fiber is anything that has 2.5 grams per serving. And then additionally, an excellent source of fiber is anything that has greater than 5 grams per serving. So if you have a food label in front of you, checking out, there's that total carbohydrate section, and then right underneath there, which I think I have a label, so we'll go through this in a minute. And right under there is that dietary fiber section. So if it has greater than 2.5 grams, that's a really good fiber source. And then greater than 5, that's an excellent fiber source. So one of the questions that I get often is, how much fiber should you have daily? And there's a lot of different organizations and websites that will say different things. But here at Pendulum, we really like this one that's from the Institute of Medicine because it's more personalized. So if you are a male under the age of 50, your fiber goal is 38 grams per day. If you're over the age of 50, your fiber goal, if you're a male, is 30 grams per day. And then likewise, females under the age of 50, your fiber goal is 25 grams per day. Females over the age of 50, your fiber goal is going to be 21 grams per day. And this is just a general guide, a good reference. And then something that we really want to emphasize is, as you are increasing your fiber intake, it's really important to do so slowly over time. So if you're currently getting between like 5 and 10 grams of fiber, we don't want to go from 10 to 30 overnight. You're probably not going to be too happy with me. You might spend a little bit more time in the bathroom than you might want to. So we really want to make sure we're gradually increasing our fiber intake over time. Additionally, as you increase your fiber intake, it's really important to increase your fluid intake. So if you're not a good water consumer, this will be a really good time to prioritize that as you are increasing your fiber intake. Speaking of water. And Dan just provided some additional resources in the chat about how much fiber you need and some other tips and tricks on ways to add fiber into your diet. So now that we've talked all about fiber, I'm sure you're sitting there wondering, what foods have fiber in them and how do I get more? So the main sources of fiber are going to be, of course, your vegetables, your whole fruits, your whole grains, nuts, oats, seeds, and then beans, peas, and other legumes. So these are going to be your main sources of fiber. But there are so many great snacks out there that I think are more fun ways to get fiber in. Two of my favorites, I don't have any on me. I wish I did. I need to go to the grocery store. But two of my favorites, and if you are one of my longtime customers that I've been working with, you know these already, but two of my favorites are, one of them is Lily's chocolate. So if you've never heard of Lily's before, it's really popular chocolate. It's most likely in your grocery section with all the other chocolates like Godiva's, the Hershey's, but Lily's is also there. And the reason why I like her chocolates is it's sweetened with stevia, and then it's also fortified with a bunch of fiber. So I am really particular with my chocolate. I don't want anything that tastes fake or artificial. But I swear, if you put a Lily's dark chocolate bar in front of me and then a Hershey's dark chocolate bar in front of me, I don't think I'd be able to tell you the difference. But one of those chocolate bars, it depends on which one you get, but I know that the dark chocolate almond, the serving size for the bar is 1/3 of the bar, which is a lot, right? Usually whenever I want to satisfy my sweet tooth, I just rip off, a couple squares, but you can actually eat a whole, 1/3 of the bar and you get 9 grams of fiber, which is insane. So I'm going to go back real quick. So if you are a female over the age of 50, your goal is 21 grams and you can get almost half just from 1/3 of that Lily's chocolate bar. So really, really fun. Check it out. I'm seeing some really fun things about Lily's, but where was I going with that? Yes, the other thing I love about it is if I don't need to eat 1/3 of the bar, because I have like a couple squares and I feel really full. And that's because that fiber in there is keeping me full and satiated. So it satisfies my sweet tooth, but it also keeps me feeling full longer. So I don't need to go back for more chocolate. And then one of my other favorite snacks is these crunchy roasted chickpeas. My favorite brand is the Vienna. I've tried multiple. I think Vienna personally has mastered the texture. I feel like I'm eating like this fried, delicious chickpea, but they just roast them in an oven, I believe. But what I love about them, I have them as snacks. I like to eat them just plain, but my other favorite thing to do with them is to throw them on top of my salads as a crouton alternative. They have all different flavors. I love the sea salt. They have ranch. They have like a spicy one. And they also have a sweet one, a honey roasted chickpea. I have not tried the sweet one yet just because I love the salty ones so much. That could be another fun treat. And then if you have any other fiber snack ideas, feel free to pop them in the chat and share them with everybody. Dan also has some ideas too. Perfect, thanks Dan. Okay, so now I'm gonna get in the different types of fiber. And this is important because everybody's different. Everybody might need different sources of fiber depending on what's personally going on with you, your GI tract, and your goals. So I'm going to start here in the left column and we're going to go over insoluble fiber first. So insoluble fiber stimulates gut peristalsis and digestion. So what that means is if you typically run on the constipated side, if you aren't really frequent in the bathroom and it's really a struggle to go, you really are going to want to focus on that insoluble fiber. The thing about insoluble fiber is it does not feed the gut microbiome, but luckily we have some other options here for that. But the benefits of insoluble fiber is, of course, it helps with the digestion, also helps with colon health, which I think March is actually National Colon Health Month. So this is another way to get that. And then your sources of insoluble fiber are going to be your whole wheat, whole grains, wheat bran, nuts, beans, and then veggies. So cauliflower, lettuce, and green beans. I'm a huge cauliflower fan. My husband is not, but I recently came across these snacks. I just found them on social media yesterday. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the brand Rhythm. Let me type it in here. RHYTH, RHY. So I see a lot of their products in my grocery stores. I see their carrot chips, their beet chips, their kale chips. But I've never seen these cauliflower, I think they're called cauliflower crisps or cauliflower snacks. But I'm a huge fan of buffalo cauliflower, and they have buffalo cauliflower, like crispy, chippy snacks. I haven't found them at my local store. We have Publix, that's usually where I go, but I'm gonna check out Whole Foods this weekend and see if I can find them. Otherwise, I might have to order like 15 bags from their website. So really, really exciting, different ways to incorporate cauliflower. It's such a versatile food. You can do cauliflower rice. You can roast it. You can eat it raw as like a dip or like a vessel for any of those dips that you like. So I'm a huge cauliflower fan. Okay, I'm going to skip over to the right column and go with insoluble fiber's friend, soluble fiber. So soluble fiber dissolves in water and forms a gel-like material. What we love about soluble fiber is it does feed the gut microbiome, which is super important for all of you here that are wanting to improve your gut health and your microbiome. The benefits of soluble fiber are that it helps lower that cholesterol and helps slow the absorption of sugar or glucose, which is why it you see a gentler effect on your blood sugar when you eat high fiber foods. Sources of soluble fiber include oats and barley, peas, beans, fruits and veggies, so apples, citrus, fruits, carrots, and barley, and then psyllium. So a lot of people supplement with psyllium. That is going to be a source of soluble fiber. Chia seeds, another really great source of soluble fiber. That's why if you ever make like chia pudding, or if you add chia seeds to, my mom would add it to her orange juice in the morning, and if she let it sit too long, it would form this like jelly-like consistency, which I'm a huge texture girl. Was not for me, but that's because it literally dissolves in water and forms a gel-like material. So chia seeds are straight soluble fiber. As you can see, a lot of the foods you eat will have a combination of insoluble and soluble fiber. Some foods have more insoluble fiber and some have more soluble fiber. It is rarely indicated on the food label, the breakdown of insoluble and soluble fiber. Some companies do it. If you're taking a fiber supplement, you might see it on there, but it's not required. So that's where we just have to know which foods might be better suited for you. But you can see beans contain both insoluble and soluble fiber, are a good source of both. Okay, so now I want to tackle the middle column, which is one of my favorites, resistant starch, and it does similar things to soluble and insoluble fiber. So resistant starch is quite literally what it sounds like. They're carbohydrates that resist digestion and function similarly to fiber. So resistant starch feeds the gut microbiome, which, like I mentioned, is really important. It helps with digestion. So that functions similarly to an insoluble fiber in that, but it also helps slow the absorption of sugar. So it acts similarly to that soluble fiber. Some really good sources of resistant starch are going to be cooked and cooled potatoes. So if you aren't familiar with this trick, listen up, it's really cool. So if you cook a potato, let's say you're making a baked potato and you bake it in the oven, if you let it cool, you can let it cool on the counter and then pop it in the refrigerator and have it overnight, or you can just let it cool on the counter. That's totally fine. And then you eat it. So you can reheat it. The reheating of this process doesn't alter the chemistry of the resistant starch. It's going to have a gentler effect on your blood sugar than if you were to have that baked potato right out of the oven. And that's because that cooking and that cooling process changes that biochemistry. And don't ask me how that works. I'm not too familiar with why that happens, but all I know is that it does, and it's really cool. And it's going to form a more of a resistant starch. So therefore, it's going to have a much gentler effect on your blood sugar. Same thing, you can do this process with oats and rice. So someone popped in here, is cooled white rice a good source of resistant starch too? So yes, you can do this exact process with rice. And I encourage you guys to try it out. If you have a CGM or if you're checking your blood sugar, do this experiment. Make white rice or brown rice or whatever rice you like and eat it fresh out the pot, warm. See what it does to your blood sugar. And then the next day, kind of make it you want to limit as many variables as possible. So, trying to keep your days pretty similar, the timing of it. See what it does to your blood sugar if you cook it and then cool it. And this can be easy because you can make the pot of rice, on a Monday, have it hot on Monday evening, and then put it in the refrigerator and reheat it and have it Tuesday and see what it does. Someone asked if doing it with sweet potatoes is the same. And yes, this works with all potatoes and all rice. Okay, hold on a second. I also love talking about green bananas. So I'm a huge banana fan. I have a banana every morning, and green bananas are a really great source of resistant starch. So another experiment you could do, have a green banana, see what that does to your blood sugar. And then, as they ripen and they get those brown spots, it's going to do something different. And that's because that resistant starch, as it ripens, it changes and it doesn't have as much. And you might notice too, like the texture of the banana is different. The sweetness of the banana is different. So if you are a banana fan and you haven't been eating them because you've been nervous of what it could do to your blood sugar, try a green one, see what it does. You're also going to feed your microbiome in the process. Also works with these legumes contain resistant starch, high amylose starches such as corn. I have a lot of customers who take a product called Unique. I will pop that in here. And I think the second ingredient on that label is high amylose, like maize, M-A-I-Z-E, which is a form of resistant starch. And then oats. So overnight oats have become really popular, and that's because that cooling process really helps form that resistant starch. I just want to see, someone says green banana, won't this give me a sore stomach? That's a great question, Suzanne. I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess my question is what would make you think that this would give you a sore stomach? If that's something that's habitual for you, you know, you don't tolerate bananas, then absolutely, you probably should avoid them. But okay, difficult to digest. No, so just because resistant starch doesn't mean your body is going to resist the digestion of the food. It's going to resist the breakdown of the carbohydrate. So when your body breaks down the carbohydrate, it turns it into sugar. So we're just breaking down, it's having that fiber or that carbohydrate go through your body completely undigested. So I know it sounds scarier than it is, but it's just we're resisting the carbohydrate breakdown. If you get sick when you eat a green unripe banana, then I definitely don't recommend doing it. I personally don't have any issues. I do recommend this to my customers, but it shouldn't cause any more GI upset than a regular banana. So I'm going to defer that to your physician if that is something that you would like. Perfect. Okay. Does anybody have any, go ahead and type in any questions you guys might have about these different types of fiber. I'm going to go ahead and keep on going. So as I mentioned, this is that food label. So the way you can find that total fiber is under the total carbohydrate section. So fiber is a type of carbohydrate. That's why you see it underneath the total carbohydrate section, but it's a type of carbohydrate that does not affect your blood sugar. So you don't have to worry about the fiber impacting your blood glucose. So other things to look at with a food label is definitely the most important thing is to check that serving size. So for example, with this food label, this is a sample label for frozen lasagna, and there's 4 servings per container. So if you eat half the container, you're gonna have to multiply all of this by 2. So really important. I don't really recommend looking at the percent daily value. It's based on a 2,000 calorie diet and everybody's different. I've been a dietitian for how long now? And my dad still tells me that, my dad would tell me that the total carbohydrate is 12%. So it's very confusing. I think that they're doing their best to try and educate people, but I can understand the confusion there. So be mindful of the serving size, how many servings per container, and the fiber. That's really what we want to focus on today anyways. Oh no. Okay, so some easy ways to add fiber to your diet. Dan popped in a really great article with more fun ways to add fiber. But I'm gonna go over some of these really cool ones. So split peas, a half cup of split peas has 25 grams of fiber. I know, I live in Florida, so we're definitely coming out of the cold weather, but split peas are such an easy way or an easy addition to any soup. I love making soups and stews during the winter time. And split peas are just such an easy thing to throw in there, especially to get all that fiber. So if you remember back to our fiber chart, if you're a female under the age of 50, you have a half cup of split peas, you've met your fiber goals for that entire day. So really, really cool addition there. A handful of nuts. These vary. Nuts are a really great source of fiber, so it depends on which one you're eating. 2 really popular ones I love to recommend are almonds. So that's one of the highest fiber nuts. But then I also love to recommend pistachios. They're another good source of fiber. They don't have as much fiber as almonds, but they're still really good. But the reason why I love them so much is they're one of the lower fat nuts. So if you need to watch, your fat intake and your calorie intake, pistachios will be friendlier from a calorie standpoint compared to other higher fat nuts. Chia seeds, I briefly mentioned this earlier. 2 tablespoons of chia seeds have about 11 grams of fiber. So that could be about a half or a third of what you need. Super easy to throw those into anything that you drink. Yogurt, smoothies. As I mentioned, my mom threw them into her orange juice. Chia pudding, you can make chia pudding. You can throw them into your oatmeal. Another super versatile, really high fiber seed that you can add in to your daily routine. And then raspberries. So I am a huge fruit fan, but I am a huge raspberry and blackberry fan, mostly because they are 2 of the highest fiber fruits out there. So blackberries, raspberries, and pears are 3 of the highest fiber fruits. Avocados as well, if you're counting that as a fruit. But 1 cup of raspberries have 8 grams of fiber. I actually went to the Container Store over the weekend, which I don't know if you guys have one of those near you or if you've ever been, but it is a really great place to waste a lot of your money. They have some really good stuff, but I came across these berry baskets and I had to buy 2 because I love berries so much, and it will really help keep them fresh, and I can wash them as soon as I buy them, so that way I can always go back to the refrigerator and snack on them, and I know they're clean and ready to eat. So definitely recommend a berry basket if you love berries like me. And then ground flax seeds. This is another really great way to add fiber into your diet. It's different than chia seeds. So chia seeds, I feel like when you eat them, and if you've had them before, you know that they're there. You're not fooling anybody with that addition to those chia seeds, but ground flax seeds are a really great way to add fiber in without changing the consistency or texture of your meal. One of my favorite recommendations with flaxseed is actually to use it if you're ever making like a breaded chicken. So if you ever like make like a baked chicken and you bread it, throw in some flax seeds to that breadcrumbs. That way you get some extra fiber there. Another easy thing that you can throw into anything like smoothies and yogurt, oatmeal, of course. So yeah, if you have any other ways that you like to add fiber into your diet, feel free to pop those in. Okay, that was quick. So we have officially concluded the fiber presentation, but now is the good time for you to ask any questions that you guys might have. I'm going to go through the chat box. I don't see anything in the Q&A. So if you put anything in the Q&A, I don't see it. So let me know if you did through the chat box. Okay. Can you comment on any relationship between fiber and chronic inflammation in the body? It's a great question, Tessa. Is this question based on, are you concerned that fiber is causing that chronic inflammation? Because I'm not sure of any relationship between that. Fiber, usually when we think of chronic inflammation, it's usually derived from like high sugary processed foods. And that wouldn't be fiber. So I'm not sure of any relationship between fiber and chronic inflammation in the body. That's a good question and something that we should definitely look into. I eat an entire Lily's bar almost daily, 27 grams of fiber. Does that really fulfill my daily fiber requirement? So based on the National Institute of Medicine, your fiber goals, if you're a female under the age of 50 or over the age of 50, it would be 21 to 25 grams. So yes, if you are eating an entire Lily's bar almost daily, that would hit your fiber goal. But I do recommend diversifying your fiber throughout the day, because different fiber is going to feed different, it's going to help promote a diversity and abundance of those good bacteria in your gut. So yes, the easy way would be to eat an entire Lily's bar every day to hit your fiber goals, but I still recommend getting in fiber through additional sources such as vegetables, fruits, beans, peas, nuts, seeds, etc. But yes, technically, Norma, great question. That would really fulfill your daily fiber requirement. Do you know why we need less fiber when we get older? So great question. And I feel like this is also, this is a double-edged sword. So you also, I think as you age, you become more sedentary and less active. So your calorie needs decrease. So that's just based on the breakdown of, percentage of your calories coming from carbohydrates. And then it's broken down further from there. But some people will kind of argue on the flip side and say, well, as you age, your bowel, I feel like your metabolism and your GI tract slows down and you tend to be either more constipated or you tend to have diarrhea. So then you would think, oh, I should incorporate more fiber to help with those. So it really is person dependent. If you're someone that doesn't get, nearly any fiber in on a daily basis, I think these are really good goals to start. But if you are, say, a 65-year-old active woman, you might, and you eat, between 30 and 40 grams of fiber per day, and that works for you, that's totally fine. But I just think these are just generalized recommendations based on the breakdown of calories and carbohydrates. It's a great question, Terry. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. I love the foods you have listed. Thank you, Linda. And I have problems with my blood sugar. However, I also have problems with IBS and diverticulitis. How can I eat to manage both issues? It's a really good question. So a lot of people with IBS, they tend to avoid fiber. And that's because, as I mentioned earlier, it's a natural scrub brush in your gut. So if in diverticulitis also, so my dad has inflammatory bowel disease. So what that means is his gut lining, depending on where it's usually, towards the end, is inflamed. So think about it as if you have an inflamed gut, it's like kind of like rubbing sandpaper on an open wound. So a lot of people do want to avoid fiber, and sometimes they follow what's called a low FODMAP diet, which I believe, I don't want to see, I think Dan might have popped in, or he's going to pop in, a really good article about the FODMAP diet. So the tricky thing is finding foods that are higher in fiber that are also low in those FODMAPs. So FODMAP stands for, and I always have to look this up because it's such a long name, but it stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. So basically it's just a fancy way of saying different types of carbohydrates, and some of them are simple sugars. So those are probably the ones that we want to avoid. But the thing with IBS and diverticulitis is it's super personable, or personalized, if you will. So some people with IBS, they might have IBS-C, which is IBS constipation, or IBS-D, which is IBS diarrhea. Some people have a combination of both, and there's just no consistency. But the cool thing with IBS is well, maybe also the not so cool thing, because it's hard to treat, is everyone tolerates different foods differently. So I think, yeah, so Dan just popped in that FODMAP article. So Linda, that might be a really good article for you to look at, because you can find some foods on here that are higher in fiber, but maybe won't affect your IBS and your diverticulitis as much. I hope that answers your question. And then if you have any further questions about that, Linda, shoot me an email. There's going to be an automatic email that will go out at the end of this presentation. I think it might come tomorrow, but it will have my email attached. So if you have any further questions, please shoot me over an email and we can talk through this together. Okay, we talked about the white rice and the sweet potatoes. Cindy suggested adding MCT oil on top of the potatoes and rice, I believe, as well. And I think that recommendation comes from, so if you were to have a carbohydrate by itself, so say, for example, you were to have crackers, that's going to do something completely different to your blood sugar than if you were to have crackers with, some cheese on top, or crackers with peanut butter. And that's because the protein and the fat helps blunt that blood sugar spike, because it's helping to slow that absorption of sugar. So that could be another fun experiment for my CGMers and my blood sugar checkers. See what happens to your blood sugar when you just have a cracker versus when you pair it with a protein or a fat. Are plantains good? That's a good question, Neha. So plantains function similarly to those green bananas and do have that resistant starch. So yes. Okay, is absorption of fiber hindered by anti-nutrients? If so, soaking and sprouting could help. So I do have some customers who like to soak them or pressure cook some of their foods to see if that helps weed out some of those lectins. I know that's another controversial topic, but if you do know that you have issues tolerating those, that can be an option for you. But I'm not too familiar with these anti-nutrients that you mentioned, Suzanne. That's a great question. Okay, Sue asks if there's fiber in pendulum glucose control. Great question. So inside of pendulum glucose control and inside of Acromancia, there is, well, I'll start with pendulum glucose control. So inside of pendulum glucose control, there's 5 probiotic strains and 1 prebiotic strain. So the prebiotic is derived from chicory root, or is inulin, which is derived from chicory root. So yes, that is, prebiotics are essentially fibers. So there's a little bit of inulin inside of both pendulum glucose control and Acromancia, just to help keep those strains happy and satisfied until we feed them further through our diet with all these high fiber foods. So yes, good question, Sue. I eat a lot of keto bread. Is it possible to get too much fiber? Do you know what type of fiber keto bread has? Great question, Lori. So there's so many different keto breads out there, really, really good options. I don't know for certain which fiber. Most of the time they are fortified. So what I would do is read that ingredients label and see which fiber, which ingredient they're fortifying with, and then look it up. I would say most of the time it's probably a soluble fiber. But I would just recommend looking at that label because every product is different. And then this 2-part question, is it possible to get too much fiber? So yes, it is possible to get too much of anything. There's definitely a sweet spot. So, I'm personally in the corner where the more the merrier from a fiber department, but you definitely will notice when you get too much, you're going to have some gas, some abdominal bloating, and maybe a little bit of GI discomfort. And that's when you know you've had too much. So you're definitely going to want to find that sweet spot of when you're seeing the benefits that you want to see, but not causing any GI distress. But I have customers who eat between 40 to 50 grams of fiber per day and don't have any issues. But I would say for the most part, the standard American diet is extremely low in fiber. We have high sugar, high fat foods, and very low fiber. I definitely think our customer base is an amazing group of well-educated people who do tend to get more fiber than the average person, but it's still a nutrient that is severely lacking from the American diet. Okay, Jada asked more on the comment about adding MCT oil. So I think I elaborated on that before I saw your comment, but please let me know if you want any more additional information. But I think just pairing a fat and a protein with a carbohydrate really does help to blunt that blood sugar spike. Okay, Dan's added some really, really awesome articles. Thank you so much. Good food for people with both high cholesterol and high blood sugar. Yes. So great question, Sue. That'll be any food that has fiber. So if we go back to one of the first slides I presented on, is fiber helps to lower your cholesterol and manage your blood sugar. So all the foods that we mentioned here, so your vegetables, whole fruits, whole grains, oats, nuts, seeds, beans, peas, and other legumes are all going to be super helpful for people who need to monitor their blood sugar and their cholesterol. So it's kind of that double whammy. So really, really awesome nutrient. Okay. Hi, Doris. So Doris said, I worked with the nutritionist with the blood sugar monitor recently and found that if I eat the same meal in a different order, I get less of a spike. Salad with nuts and cheese and vinaigrette dressing before pasta, or eggs and berries before a slice of avocado toast worked magically. Same food, different order or ingestion. Do you have any data to share on this? Yes, Doris, that is spot on. This really does, it's a real thing. So we actually are running this beta program right now we call it the Amplitude program, and it's for some of our customers that are taking pendulum glucose control, but also have a continuous glucose monitor. And I think we're a little over halfway through the program right now, which is really cool. But our participants are actually sent these experiments weekly. And one of the experiments we send them is to do exactly what you said. So to have, to switch up the order of their meals. So typically, we think of having that salad ahead of time. So we encourage them to have the salad before the pasta, see what their blood sugar does. The next day, repeat that experiment and have the pasta and then the salad, going to do something completely different to your blood sugar. And that's because that fiber from the salad that you're eating is going to help blunt that blood sugar spike from the pasta. And same thing with the nuts and the cheese, all that fiber and fat is going to help blunt, the addition of the pasta. So really, really cool. I don't have any specific data and numbers to share, but it's definitely a thing. And firsthand that it works through testing that out with your CGM. Okay, hold on a second. I gotta Google something. There's an acronym that I don't know. Oopsies. Why is this not working? Okay, so Sarah asked, is MCT okay for those with APOE4? So I just Googled it, and studies reveal how this gene may increase, I think it's a genetic, I'm going to be honest, Sarah, I am not familiar with this apolipoprotein gene. I'm looking it up. So this protein combines with fats in the body to form molecules called lipoproteins. Lipoproteins are responsible for packaging cholesterol and other fats and carrying them through the bloodstream, maintaining normal levels of cholesterol. There are slightly different versions of this gene. I'm not sure, Sarah. So the question is MCT okay for those with this specific gene? Let me look into that for you. Write this down and get back to you and see if I find any specific research on this specific gene. Okay, are there particular flours that are better? Whole wheat, buckwheat, spelt, and kamut? Great question, Deborah. My recommendation would be the one that you like the most. We want to make sure that we're, of course, eating is our way of nourishing our body, but we also want it to be enjoyable. So that'd be my first recommendation. But then my second one would be to pick the one that has the highest fiber. So sometimes the whole wheat might not have as much as buckwheat or spelt. So I would go through those labels, go to my label slide and see which one has the most fiber and pick that one. Great question. Do we need to space out the salad and pasta? How much time should we wait till we have the pasta? That's Nihal's question. So Doris, if you want to explain exactly what you did for the pasta, the salad, I would say you don't, it's going to be different for every person, Niha. Some people will digest it quicker than others, but I don't think you need to wait hours and hours before you have the salad and the pasta. I would just probably do it at the normal regular cadence that you might find at a restaurant or your house. But I think just having any sort of fiber and protein or fat food before you introduce carbohydrates is going to be beneficial. Okay, ApoE4 increases the chance of Alzheimer's. I've also read, as I Googled that, it also increases the chance of dementia as well, but I'm really not sure of its effect with MCT. Okay. Deborah asked, okay, real quick. Doris said, I ate the salad normally before dinner meal. I skip the bread completely when having pasta. If I want bread, I always have it after. Some fat, protein, and fiber. Great job, Doris. Really, really great. Okay, so I'm going to answer Deborah's question from the chat box, and then I'm going to pop over to the Q&A. I do see some red bubbles in there. So Deborah says, can you explain the benefits of the Munich shakes? Would they be good for diabetics? So the benefit of Munich shakes, and I have customers who take Munich and pendulum glucose control, and they swear by that combination. And I will say they do have really good results. So if you're not familiar, I can actually pull up their website here. Munich is essentially I think it's a powder that you can mix with water. But what I love about it is it's a bunch of resistant starch. So I've never really looked into their the science behind it, but they do have a whole science section if you want to look into it. But I will pull up, for example, the chocolate. I also love it. So I have some customers who do not prefer, like they don't prefer whey protein. So they also have a vegan option, which has a pea protein if you like that. But if you look at Munich here, it's a prebiotic resistant starch fiber blend. So it's the first ingredients are green banana powder, high amylose maize resistant starch, beta glucan, which is from oats, and then soluble vegetable fiber. So if you look at here, it has 41 grams of carbohydrates, which you're probably thinking like, whoa, that's a lot. But it has 15 grams of fiber. So we know for certain that these strains inside of pendulum glucose control and your microbiome, they love to eat fiber. They also love to eat resistant starch. So Munich is a really great product that has been formulated. Oh, actually, you can't see this on the label. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt myself, but the total carbohydrates are 41. They have 15 grams of dietary fiber, and then it also has 20 grams of non-digestible carbohydrate from allulose. So you can see that right here. It's fortified with a bunch of allulose. So it does get added to the total carbohydrate total, but from a net carbohydrate standpoint, you can subtract both of these out, which leaves us to 6 grams of carbohydrates that would affect your blood sugar, which is pretty low. Which is really low, actually. So we know that you're feeding your microbiome directly with these resistant starches that they love to eat. So I've never tried it. I can't speak to the taste. I can't speak to my personal benefit, but I do have customers that love to take this product. I will say it's not super cheap. You can do it in a subscription, but you can do on-the-go packets. You can do a bag with a scoop. Something to look into if you feel like your body can use, or your diet can use a little bit more resistant starch. But I don't think this is mandatory. I think that you can absolutely get our resistant starch and our fiber in through whole food sources. But if you want to look into Munich, I definitely recommend that as well, because I've had some really good success stories. And if you read the reviews, actually, I was, how do you present? I was reading the reviews yesterday with a customer, and there's a lot of testimonials from individuals with diabetes and its benefits in lowering their blood sugar and hemoglobin A1Cs. I feel like I'm a unique representative right now. Okay. I wear a CGM, and I've tested many times that eating oatmeal, steel cut or regular, rapidly raises my blood glucose though. Any thoughts? Okay, great question. So there's definitely, oatmeal is another controversial food amongst people, but there's definitely going to be oatmeal that's better than others. So what I recommend doing is, finding the steel cut or whatever oatmeal you like, and then adding in some of those fiber sources that we talked about to really help blunt that blood sugar response that you get. So that way you won't see that rapid rise in your blood glucose. So you could add chia seeds, you could add flax seeds, you could add nuts. I have a lot of customers that see a lot of really good benefit from adding like a nut butter. All that fat and that protein is really going to help blunt, excuse me, that blood sugar spike that you see happening rapidly. So if you really like oatmeal and it's a super easy, grab and go breakfast option for you, I wouldn't give up on it just yet. I would test it. Since you have that CGM on, I would play around and see how you can add different fiber sources or protein sources or fat sources to see if you can help prevent that spike. Excuse me. Robin says there was an excellent article on Level's website on oatmeal. I think I did see that article. Actually, it was a really well-written article. So if you have questions about oatmeal, Levels is another company that has continuous glucose monitors. You can check out that article. I'm going to mute for 1 second so I can cough. Excuse me, got a tickle in my throat. Okay, Ed asks, do we really need to add Acromancia? What benefits will it do? So Ed, do you really need to add Acromancia into your routine, or do we need to add it additionally to pendulum glucose control? I will answer that. So we have two products. We have pendulum glucose control, and then we have Acromancia. Pendulum glucose control, as I mentioned earlier, has 5 strains, which includes one of those strains is Acromancia. We also have our Acromancia only product, which contains 1 strain, Acromancia. So the benefits of Acromancia is that there's a lot of research showing that individuals with different metabolic diseases, such as obesity, diabetes, hypertension, etc., we know that they're lacking and they're missing these strain. So we want to put it back into our gut. So Acromancia is been shown. So what it does is once it gets into your intestines, it's going to, I like to think of it honestly as like an exfoliator. So when you have like your skin and you exfoliate that skin, you're going to take off all of those dead skin cells and you're going to be left with this beautiful skin layer. So same thing with the Acromancia. What it wants to do is get into your gut, into your mucin layer. It's going to eat like a Pac-Man, all of those dead, not so beneficial lining, and you're going to be left with this beautiful, strong mucin layer. So what happens, the reason why that's important is over time, just naturally with the aging process, changes in your environment, changes in your diet, stress, different medications, all those things cause your microbiome to change. And over time, that gut lining becomes more permeable. And when that happens, different food products, bacteria and toxins can pass through that gut lining and enter into your bloodstream. And that's what can lead to inflammation. So I think Tessa asked a question earlier about inflammation. And this is where Acromancia could come into play and help strengthen that gut lining to prevent or decrease any inflammation. I hope, did that answer your question, Ed? Added to glucose control. Okay, so we do not have any research or data showing that if you're already taking pendulum glucose control, it's going to be any more efficacious to add Acromancia to it because you're already getting, a good dose from the pendulum glucose control. However, I have a lot of customers who choose to take both. They really want that Acromancia in their gut. It is safe. There's safe dosings to do so if you choose. But it is definitely not necessary. If you're already taking pendulum glucose control, you're getting a good amount of Acromancia. Perfect. Ed says, I'll order it to try. Okay, whatever. That sounds good, Ed. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, I think I've got everything in the Q&A section, so I'm going to go back to the chat box. Also, Terry has their hand raised. Terry, do you want me to allow you to talk, or was that an accident? You let me know what you prefer. Oh my gosh. Oh no, okay. Are these vitamins in Unique from the source food or manufactured? Also need to be careful of overdoing some of these vitamins if using multiple supplements. Yes, great question. I do not know the answer of where they're getting these vitamins from Unique. My guess is they are probably being added on the end, but I would have to look into that further. The good thing with most of these vitamins, so they're probably water soluble. So what happens is, is vitamin C. So there's fat soluble vitamins, which you can overdose on. So that would be A, D, E, and K. You can overdose and cause, complications with those, but the rest of them are going to be water soluble, and you will just pee them out. Your body will get rid of them if you don't need too many. But I definitely recommend discussing before you add any additional supplements or products to your repertoire. I, of course, recommend you seeking the advice of your health professional. Doris, I love what a CGM expert you're becoming. This is great. So Doris said, I tested oatmeal and can't do it unless I crowd the oats with pumpkin seeds, chia, walnuts, and berries. No bananas. Okay, Doris, it'd be fun for you to try it with green bananas and see what that does. And if you want another experiment, but for my anonymous question, I'm not sure who asked that about the oatmeal, Doris successfully added a bunch of pumpkin seeds, chia, and walnuts and berries to help blunt that oatmeal response. Oh, good. Dan also put in a great article that we have on our website about oats. Do we get any discount on glucose control if we want to order for a family member? Great question, Neha. So we just launched this awesome refer and receive program. So what you can do is if you log into your account, there's going to be a section that you can send your family member your referral code. And what will happen is they will get a discount on their bottle, but you will also get a discount on your next bottle. So definitely check that out and let me know if you have any questions. We just launched this. So if you've run into any issues or any technological problems, please reach out and I'd be happy to, our customer experience team would be happy to walk you through that process. But yes, so for all of your friends and your family members, definitely send them your referral code. And if they purchase through your link, you would be able to get a discount for you and for them, which once again, double whammy, kind of like fiber. All right, we have 2 minutes left and I do actually have to stop it at the top of the hour because I have a call. I usually try to hang on here after for any last questions, but I will have to stop it right at the top of the hour. Sherry asked, not sure if someone asked, but are there any medication side effects? Husband takes several medications and does not want to take in case causes problems. Great question, Jerry. So in our clinical trial, we had some customers who were on metformin and different sulfonylureas. So we haven't tested this with, every medication on the market, of course, but we have a GRAS certification, which stands for generally recognized as safe. So I have customers who are on tons of medications. My dad is on, I feel like my dad could have a pharmacy in his bathroom, and I would have no problem encouraging or recommending him to take pendulum glucose control or Acromancia. Great question. And if you do have questions about our clinical trial, Dan posted a really good article kind of breaking down our published clinical study. Sherry, if you have any questions, we have some really great handouts that we prepared for healthcare professionals. So they're a little bit more high level, kind of speak to the science. If he does feel more comfortable discussing this with his physician or whoever is prescribing them these medications, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll get those handouts sent over to you. Oh, yes. Thank you. So we also have really, really great social media presence on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. We also have a YouTube channel. So Dan has linked all of those here. So definitely give those a follow and check them out so that way you don't miss any new and upcoming information. And then one last question from Sarah, thoughts on using other probiotics with glucose control, such as Planarium? Great question, Sarah. I'm not familiar with that probiotic Planarium, but the strains that you will have inside of pendulum glucose control are going to be completely different than any of the other strains in a different probiotic. So I do have customers who will take pendulum glucose control in addition to another probiotic. As I mentioned, we don't have, it's not published in our clinical trial that, pendulum glucose control with XYZ, but from a safety standpoint, there should be no issues. I definitely recommend, of course, consulting your physician as you introduce different supplements and probiotics into your repertoire. but from a safety standpoint, there should be no issues. Great question. Well, thank you all so much for attending this session today. And thank you, a huge thank you to Dan for popping in all of these really great articles to help you guys, explore these further. I am going to, I want to write down the name. I'm going to look into the APOE4 for Sarah. But if you have any questions, feel free to send me over an email and I will get back to you this week. But thank you so much. I am going to end the presentation. So thank you all. Perfect. Okay. Will be helpful to get these articles by email since they will disappear once we hang up. Yeah, I will have Dan send me over all the articles that he sent in this chat box, and I will include them in our email to go out after. They also will, the recording of this will also be sent out to people who attended, and then also those who signed up but weren't able to attend. So thank you all so much. I do have to end it, but I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you all soon.